Okay, so I am solving equations. Now, remember when I'm solving equations, I'm using inverse operations in order to get x by itself. So here's the x, and I need to undo everything that's with it. So right now, this whole thing is being squared. So I need to undo something being squared, and how do I do that? I square root. Okay, I square root. Now remember, when I square root, right, that's square root and squared cancel because they are inverse operations, but if I square root on the left, I have to also square root on the right. Okay, now the square root and squared undo, so that's x plus 5. Okay, now here's what we need to remember about square roots. Remember, this is some number, look where my finger is, some number times itself equals 121. That number could be 11. 11 times 11 is 121. It could also be negative 11. Negative 11 times negative 11 is 121. So this could be plus or minus 11. And here's where we take it. Whenever you see this plus or minus sign, this is where it needs to split now into two equations. So when you see that plus or minus sign, now it needs to split, okay? And it becomes x plus 5 could equal negative 11, or x plus 5 could equal positive 11. And I'm going to go ahead and solve, right? Look, I need x by itself, so I'm going to subtract 5 on both sides. Negative 11 minus 5 is negative 16. 11 minus 5 is 6. So my two answers, and I'm going to write them from least to greatest, is x could be negative 16 or 6. Okay. So whenever I have an equation where something is squared, I'm going to end up with two solutions because when I square root in order to get rid of that squared, when I square root, I get the plus or minus, and that's where I get the two equations. Let's take a look at this next one. Here I have the square root of all of this equals 6. Now in order to undo square root, I use the inverse. So the inverse of square root is squared. Okay, now look, if I square on this side, look, the square root sign was here, right? This was what was here. Now what I'm choosing to do, I'm choosing to square. Now if I choose to square on the left, I choose to square on the right. Okay, so then I get x plus 3 equals, what's 6 squared? 6 times 6 is 36. This is not plus or minus. 6 times 6 could not be negative 36. It's only positive 36. So here, I'm just going to subtract 3 from both sides, and I'm done. This equation has only one solution. When I square, that does not create two answers. When I square root, that creates this split. Let's take a look here. Okay, I have something squared. I'm going to go ahead and square root. Okay, I have something squared, so I square root, right? If I square root on one side, I square root on the other side. So now, the square and the square root cancel, so I'm left with 2x equals the square root of 100. What number multiplied by itself could be 100? Could be positive 10, but it could also be negative 10. Okay, plus or minus. This is where I now split into two equations. 2x could equal negative 10, or 2x could equal positive 10. So two separate equations. I'm going to go ahead and solve. I'm dividing by 2 on both sides. I get x equals negative 5 over here. I get x equals positive 5 over here. So my x values could be negative 5 or positive 5. And you can look, you can put this back in and see, look, if I plugged in negative 5, that'd be 2 times negative 5, that'd be negative 10 squared. Negative 10 times negative 10, 100. If I plugged in 5, right, I would get positive 10 squared equals 100. So those are my 3 examples. Go ahead and try below.